Hello, my name is Tanmay Agrawal and today I am going to give you an overview on ISO and 9001 standard. Now, what is ISO? ISO is an acronym for International Organization for Standardization. It is derived from the Greek word ISOS, which means equal. So whatever is the country or language, it is always ISO. It develops and publishes international standards. It is an independent, non-governmental international organization with a membership of 164 national standards bodies. It brings together experts to share knowledge and develop voluntary, consensus-based, market-relevant international standards that support innovation and provide solutions to global changes. Now, what does a standard mean? An international standard provides world-class specifications for the products, services, and systems to ensure quality, safety, and efficiency, playing pivot role in the international trade. So, ISO has almost published 21,513 international standards and related documents covering almost every industry, be it technology, food, safety, agriculture, or healthcare. So in totality, it means ISO standards impact everyone and everywhere. Now let's take a simple example. In case a switch, 6 ampere switch is not working, you just pull out that switch, bring a new switch from the shopkeeper and replace it. So simple. You just need to say to the shopkeeper that please give me a 6 ampere switch. You do not need to measure the switch which is not working and take those dimensions to the shopkeeper. Okay, give me a switch with so much length, this much height, this much screws size and so on. You just need to say 6 ampere switch. And why is that so? Because all the switch manufacturers use some ISO standard which specifies a 6 ampere on-off switch dimensions. So the life of people have become easy because there is a standard associated with that particular technology or device. Let's take an example from IT industry. If you want to connect a printer nowadays, you just plug and play using the USB cable. You put the USB cable in the USB port of computer as well as the printer and it's done. And you can just plug and play the printer. Whereas in 1990s, people had to check the number of pins in the port of the printer as well as the computer to have a connection. And in some of the cases, they used to attach an adapter in between that. So it was very difficult for one to connect the printer and a peripheral because of non-standard ports. And with the introduction of universal serial bus, that is USB ports, life has become easy. This is another example of ISO implementation into the industry for best practices. Now, as you have seen, there are multiple standards under ISO. We'll be today discussing about ISO 9001-2015 standard, that is Quality Management System Standard. And before we discuss in detail and what's written over the screen now, let's see what is there in different businesses, how different businesses work. Whether it's service industry or whether it's manufacturing industry, there are certain things in common, like all produce something, either services or products. They have customers to sell these services or products, and they have certain departments which work for the help of this production. Like for human resources, a human resource department is there, a operations department or the administration department is there, an engineering or the technical department is there, a management is there, and obviously to sell these products and services, a sales and marketing department is there. So all manufacturing or service industries have these particular departments in place. So ISO studies these different organizations. They look for the different type of services which are being offered. Manufacturers, they survey those manufacturers and they come up with a standard which is given in quality management system. So if an organization implements ISO 9001 standard, that is quality management system, they are bound to get better quality than what they used to have before the implementation of this system. Now this is the only standard in the 9000 standards family which can be certified, and the beauty is that this can be implemented by any organization irrespective of its size and regardless of the activity they are carrying out. Any business organization can carry out this standard, or even a non-profit organization can implement this standard. You will be astonished to know that there are over 1 million companies and organizations over 170 countries that have been certified under ISO 9001. This quality management system has certain principles like strong customer focus, motivation and implication of top management, the process approach and continual improvement. So it ensures that customers get consistent, good quality products and services, which in turn brings many business profits to the organization. Now let's talk about ISO 9001 certification. It is optional and may be practiced without certification also. And ISO neither provides certification nor conformity assessment nor issue certificates. So ISO has a committee on conformity assessment which has produced number of standards which are related to certification process and are supposed to be used by the certifying bodies. A certifying body can be independent body. However, there are certain accreditation bodies which are independent bodies and provide formal recognition to the certifying body that operates according to the international standards. Some of the accreditation bodies which are very popular like NABCB in India, DUX in Germany, SSC in Singapore, ANAB in USA, UCAS in UK, etc. For a certifying body, accreditation is optional, however provides independent confirmation of competence. It provides conformity assessment activities in a variety of fields including management systems, products and personnel. Some of the popular examples of certifying bodies is TÜVSÜD, TÜVNORD, Bureau Veritas, Bureau of Indian Standards, STQC, BSI, etc. The scope of certification is a vital part of the certification, defining the QMS coverage within the organization's operations and details any exclusion from ISO 9000 requirements with the proper justification. In simple terms, a business has to mention what all things or what all departments would be covered under QMS. It's not necessary that all the support departments are covered in quality management system, and therefore a scope is to be defined at the time of certification. At the same time, there could be certain clauses which we'll be discussing further may not be applicable to that organization, and therefore with proper justification those clauses or those rules or those standard clauses of the standard may be excluded and mentioned on the certificate. A certificate is valid for 3 years subject to the fulfillment of the norms and are being verified by external audits at the first year, which is known as certification audit, second year as surveillance audit, and third year as the surveillance 2 audit, which means that certifying body verifies at regular intervals whether the organization which has been certified by that certifying body for ISO 9001 certification is actually complying with the standards of ISO 9001. So they keep a check every year in the 3-year certification cycle. Now organization for getting certified has to do some homework. They have to purchase the standard copy of 9001 and have to implement the documentation or implementation based on that standard. The standard contains clauses 1 to 10 which we will be discussing further, and the organization most preferably have to create a management system manual wherein they will give a high level of implementation as to how they will be implementing the standard. The 9001 standard gives a detailing of the quality management system practices in a high level perspective, whereas the organization which is to be certified has to give the detailing of each and every aspect required in that standard in detail, and that detailing is mentioned in this high level document which is known as management system manual. Now once this manual is ready, then for each clause or for each rule, in simple terms, detailed working is to be explained in certain documents which are nothing but procedures, policies or work instructions step by step as to how that will be implemented. For example, there is a one requirement of clause 9.1.2 which states that customer feedback has to be taken. So the standard says customer feedback has to be taken. It doesn't say when it will be taken up, that means frequency, who will be taking up, that is the designation, and in what mode it will be taken up, that is in form of paper or call or meeting, etc. But the implementation in the manual has to mention mention all the details like frequency, the designation, who will be taking up, and in the mode in which this feedback would be taken up. So this implementation is a company or a firm specific which has to be mentioned in these documents. All the documents needs to be ISO controlled, and for your information, auditing is a systematic and independent examination to determine whether the quality activities and related results comply with planned arrangements and whether these arrangements are implemented effectively and are suitable to achieve objectives. In simple terms, auditing is nothing but verification of the compliance which is required by ISO 9001 standard, and it is done on the sampling basis. So all records are not checked, it's just the samples which are verified and on the basis of which a certification is granted. Now these audits are done in two ways. One is internal audits, that is done by internally by the organization to improve their quality, and the second one is the external or the third party audit which is carried out by the certifying bodies while doing the certification or during the surveillance audits. These are Annex SL clauses which are from 1 to 10 and are common for most of the management systems. They include the scope, some terms, definitions about the organization, leadership, that is the management leadership part, planning, support, operations, customer and continual improvement. So all these clauses have some high level purview on the aspects of quality which needs to be implemented in detail by the organization implementing or getting certified on ISO 9001 standard. Though this Annex SL clauses are common for most of the management systems, however for each management system like ISO 9001 standard, there are certain specifications which are required for that particular standard. So ISO 9001 standard provides those specifications under different clauses which can be mentioned or which are mentioned under these standard Annex SL clauses. Now let's see how the audit is carried out. Now the organization is having multiple documents starting from the management system manual, which is nothing but the implementation level manual of the ISO 9001 standard, followed by certain documents like procedures, work instructions, policies and related templates. So the auditors verify whether the management system manual is as per the requirements of ISO 9001 standard. That is first thing. Secondly, they see how the requirements of 9001 are implemented in different documents. If those documents are written in a correct way, the processes are mentioned in a correct way which are a reflection of 9001 implementation, then it's fine. And then they go to check the records of the company. Let's understand what is a record. For example, if the HR department in the company stated in their process that whenever a new joinee will come up, they'll have a form filled by that new joinee. Now this form is nothing but a template which is a result of the process specified by HR and is under a clause of ISO 9001 standard. Now when new joinees come up, they fill up those forms. Once that form is filled up, that becomes a record, and such particular forms filled by the joinees and kept in the HR records are nothing but record for the auditors. So auditors verify such records and they see whether they comply with the ISO 9001 requirement. Now once the audit is complete, the results of the audit are shared by the auditors and they are known as findings of the audit. It includes 5 components. The first is positive aspects, something which is being practiced as per the standard and it is nicely being implemented in the system. So opportunities for improvement means they are not effectively implemented and such steps which are not value adding steps should be removed and the process should be corrected. The third is observations, which means that certain areas are not compliant in a proper way, and if such more evidences are found, then they can become non-conformity, which means that this is something which is not good and may lead to non-conformity in future. So the auditee should take care to correct these non-compliant or potential non-conformities for future compliances. Next two are very important and quite critical to the organization. They may act as a black spot for the organization, that is minor non-conformity and major non-conformities. Minor non-conformities are some requirements of the management system that are not fulfilled completely, but this doesn't mean that the complete management system is ineffective. So the auditee has to do a root cause analysis and should need to provide an immediate correction, and those correction needs to be implemented and informed to the lead auditor within 14 days, and the lead auditor will then evaluate the submitted corrections and will therefore accept these closure of non-conformities. And the last one is major non-conformity or non-conformity. This means that the system is totally failure of effectively implementing the ISO 9001 standard, and therefore the lead auditor asks the user or the auditee to do a root cause analysis and perform the immediate corrections, and those corrective actions need to be implemented in the system before a certificate is issued or renewed. And the lead auditor generally verifies the effectiveness of the corrective actions by visiting again, that is on-site re-audit of the system, and then only he or she provides the approval for the recertification or for the reissuance of the certificate. In case of minor non-conformity or major non-conformity, root cause analysis needs to be done. Now the question is, what is root cause analysis? Basically, it's a method of problem solving using identifying the root causes or faults or problems. For example, some students received poor testing scores. So after investigation, it was verified that the students taking the test in the final period of the school got lower scores. Then they further investigated and found that in the late part of the day, student lacked the ability to focus. They further investigated and it was revealed that the reason of lack of poor focus was hunger. So the root cause of the poor testing scores was hunger. So root cause analysis is nothing but finding the fault or the cause which has brought this problem, and then there are two things which needs to be done. One is correction. In this case, correction was done by moving the testing time soon after the lunch, and second is corrective action, that is steps which are taken to remove the root cause of the problem itself. So this root cause analysis has to be done after every minor NC or major NC. Now let's take one example to see how the auditor verifies the implementation of ISO 9001 standard and provides the finding. Clause 9.1.2 of Quality Management System specifies about customer satisfaction. So one of the aspects of this clause is customer feedback. Now the frequency of feedback is not mentioned, mode of collection is not mentioned, responsible person is not mentioned, when it will be analyzed it is also not mentioned. It is up to the organization to decide how they want to implement this clause. So implementation of this clause is mandatory, but how it's been implemented is left to the organization. Now we take two examples, organization A and organization B, both having ISO 9001 implementation. but in a different manner. Organization A states that they will have quarterly feedback over the paper form by a manager, and organization B specifies that they'll have monthly feedbacks in form of web-based forms done through sales representatives. Now, when the auditor comes for the verification, let's say there are two samples in organization A, one with 1 year records, that is 4 feedbacks because they take quarterly, and the second sample should again have 4 feedbacks because they also happen to take on quarterly basis. But let's say for sample 1, the number of feedbacks found by the auditor were actually 4. Now let's say in the sample 1, the auditee were able to show all the 4 feedbacks. In that case, they are found to be compliant. In sample 2, out of 4, only 3 feedbacks were available, and since they are conforming to the system but still they don't have the complete record, they may be given observation by the auditor. In organization B, let's say there are 4 samples. In the first sample, they should have 12 feedbacks because they take on monthly basis. In 1 year there are 12 feedbacks, and let's say they show 6 feedbacks. They might get observation because they are fulfilling the requirement of the standard, but still they have 6 out of 12 feedbacks only, therefore they may be given observation. In sample 2, out of 12 they have just 2 feedbacks. They might get minor non-compliance because they are fulfilling but then they are not fulfilling in a correct manner, so they can get a minor NC in which they have to do root cause analysis. The sample 3rd and 4th both have 24 feedbacks in all, and let's say in sample 3 they have only 1 feedback, and in sample 4 they have only 2 feedbacks. In that case, this is not acceptable and they might get non-compliance or major NC. So for organization B, they need to do RCA, which means they need to analyze root causes, corrections and corrective actions for sample 2, 3 and 4 to close non-compliances. I hope with this presentation, concepts on ISO and 9001 standard would have been cleared. In case you need further details or have queries, please contact as per the contact details on the screen. Thanks for your time.